Right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Women in Sectional Title webinar. This platform aims to unite all women in the sectional title sphere into one vibrant, collaborative community. So we're really, really thankful that you've joined us today. We hope that you enjoy our webinar. We want to develop, support, connect with women in this dynamic property industry of ours. And it's important that we all unite together and learn and grow and share together. So today we're talking about conscious transformation. It's such an interesting topic, and I think it's so important for where we stand today as a community, particularly taking into account this COVID pandemic. And I think while the last 18 months have really forced us to reevaluate where we stand, how we feel and how we approach life, often in a positive way, there's still a lingering effect of some sort of social disconnection and isolation. And particularly all of us women in this property field, I mean, it's really, we in the hurly-burly of this industry, and it's very tough. So it's time for you to sit back, just relax. Nothing about sectional title today, just about how to nurture yourselves and some food for thought. So enjoy. And during these tough times, we've always had such stalwart support from our lovely, lovely sponsors. And we'd like to just take the opportunity to thank them. So ZFIN, the Smart Finance Solution for Community Schemes, thank you for your support. CIA, Specialist Building Insurers. CIA we do a lot of work with and can certainly highly recommend them. Also BCM Track. BCM Track provides innovative solutions for software and management scheme systems. So that's great. That's Gary Engelbrecht. Meeting Pal, an online app for virtual meetings, and there we know that virtual meetings have really become a thing for us now and for the future. And sectional title solutions add value to the sectional title community, certainly by providing energy efficiency tools, smart technology, and also advisory services. So thank you for sticking it out through the pandemic with us, to our sponsors, and we look forward to having you on board for the coming year as well. All right, so today I'd love to introduce you to our guest. I'm so proud and privileged to have this lady on board with us today. Her name is Ilze Olckers. Ilze is a human rights lawyer. She was very, very active during the anti-apartheid times, and she was played a role in transforming us towards a democracy, also drafting the Constitution. And now she's an organisational development facilitator. So very warm welcome to you, Ilze.
Thank you, Marina. Thank you.
I'm so happy that you joined us, and even, over and above load shedding and all these difficult things we've got, I know that you're going to provide us with principles today which speak to how we navigate our way through this pandemic and going forward. And maybe we just need to sit still for a moment, take a few steps back before we go ahead. And I'd really love you to just fill us in on your career, because you've had such an interesting career up to date. Tell us how you got to this point and what it is that you do.
Sure. Well, welcome everybody. I see we're 26 people in the room. Welcome to each of you. And thank you, Marina, for this invitation and for the opportunity to speak with this group of women. I think I spotted one guy. I don't know. Maybe it was a mistake. In our virtual room where we're meeting. And yes, thank you again also for accommodating the load shedding panic that we had for yesterday when the webinar was originally scheduled for. So initially, when Marina reached out to me, I thought that I thought that it would be fun to have this conversation because my background is also in law, as Marina mentioned. And a lot of what you guys are dealing with has got to do, obviously, with the legalities of the sectional title environment. But my own personal path has always had issues of justice and issues of spirituality and issues of personal growth and human development that have always run parallel to my legal career. And as Marina mentioned, when we were sort of part of this transition in the 90s, and it kind of feels very relevant now because we're preparing obviously for elections on Monday. But as we were getting ready for our first democratic elections in 1994, there was this big realization that our entire society, our entire South African community will now be a constitutional democracy. And this will mean very different things for decision makers, legal decision makers, judges, magistrates, prosecutors. None of our entire legal system up until that point hadn't operated from a constitutional basis. And so I started moving out of my technical legal role into a facilitation role when Dalla Omar, who was our first democratically elected Minister of Justice, invited 2 or 3 of us to develop the first sort of training courses for the legal community around what it meant to now be dispensing justice in a constitutional framework, and also given our own personal biases, our own personal histories growing up under apartheid. And I must say, I am very in love with our constitution. I think it is the most extraordinary vision for being alive on this planet and being part of a community, a country. And so it felt to me, having fought so hard to get to that place where we had this beautiful constitution, it was now an absolute responsibility on many of us to make sure that we actually live into the spirit of that constitution and actually make it a real living thing in the lives of people. And so that's been the last sort of 30 years of my life, has been 25 years of my life, has been bringing the principles of the Constitution, and particularly the preamble. I don't know how many of you have read the preamble to the Constitution, but maybe on election day, just to inspire yourselves again about the importance of our democracy and our constitution, maybe just go Google the South African Constitution and read through the preamble. It is a poem. It is a beautiful visionary poem. And that really has inspired all my organizational work since the late 90s.
That's amazing. And I know that didn't you develop a book with Joanne Fedler on how gender speaks to justice and in terms of how the judiciary use words and phrases and things which were discriminatory.
We did. It came out of so Joanne Fedler is a wonderful author and a very dear friend of mine. She's written about 13 books. Her latest book, I'll do a little shout out for Joanne. Her latest book is called Unbecoming. And for all of us can you spot the little gray hairs there? For all of us with the gray hairs and of a certain age, it is about this late midlife, and it's about women having to redefine themselves once their children, have grown up a little bit. And it's a very lovely, brilliant book. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Thanks. Awesome. Fantastic, Marina. It's a lovely book. And it's really a brilliant book club book. It's a brilliant inspirational book for women and celebrating women's friendships and women supporting one another in our later years. So we wrote a book. It had a very cheeky title. It was called Ideological Virgins and other myths. And it was actually a quote from a judgment by Judge Edwin Cameron, who was also as a colleague and a friend of ours, who said that judges must remember they're not ideological virgins. We all bring all our biases with us into every courtroom, into every boardroom, even into our dining rooms. We bring our biases with us. So yeah, that was a book about how law teachers might teach the law in a new way in our kind of constitutional framework. Yeah.
So Ilze, moving on to the discussion around COVID. I mean, very few of us have been left unscathed, and we're needing to find a meaningful way to kind of transcend this initial shock and the sense of isolation. And I know a lot of women are feeling it, certainly. And I'd like you to sort of interrogate this for us. And I know when we chatted a while ago, you said you kind of had a magical moment where you thought you needed to do something. You needed to be, proactive in terms of this pandemic. Maybe you can start talking us through that.
Thanks, Marina. So I want to just start off by saying that I really want to encourage people to participate in the chat box. It's really, it's so, for those of us who love being in person in workshops and, engaging with other warm bodies, it's so lovely when there's a little bit of commentary in the chat. And I'm going to also ask you, as I kind of go through what I've prepared to share this afternoon, I'm also going to ask you to just put in the chat your experiences, just your examples of what I might be referring to in my talk. But yes, lockdown came to me like I thought I had died and gone to heaven. I thought, oh my goodness, this is what life is supposed to be. This is what I've been missing out on. I'd been the breadwinner of our family. I'd been parenting 2 boys. Most of my work as a consultant involved traveling. I was either packing a suitcase or unpacking a suitcase, saying hello or goodbye to my children, or trying to make up to them for the fact that I'd been away and, parenting and getting up early, and I was juggling my schedule to be there for my kids as important events, as well as not letting my clients down. It was just a very stressful 2 decades of my life. And this incredible, beautiful sort of silence that descended. And I don't know, those of you during lockdown who were privileged enough to be on social media and to hear all those things about how people could hear the heartbeat of the earth, literally people, the geologists could hear the heartbeat of the earth, how nature changed during that time, and these sort of rituals in the evening of clapping for the frontline workers and honoring other people's bravery, and how people were supporting each other, and how nations were supporting each other. And it was just this exquisite kind of exhale for me. We thought it would be only 3 weeks. You're right, Sandy. We thought it would only be 3 weeks. I personally was already like hoping for 3 months. But immediately as I was feeling that sense of bliss, I had what I referred to the blister. So there was the sense of my own personal bliss, and suddenly there was this blister. There was this very uncomfortable, very tender part of me that was just overwhelmed by the experience of other people in this situation, who didn't have safe homes, who didn't have some kind of buffer around their income, who didn't have access to connectivity and internet. And it was just a blistery feeling. And at that time, I'm sure you will remember, these community action networks started appearing. And what an absolutely amazing phenomenon. So I don't know if any of you on the call are familiar with the community action networks, the CANs, and if any of you were maybe involved in any of the CANs. if you know a little bit about the history of the cans, but it was this incredible phenomenon where more middle class and more wealthy suburbs twinned with townships and with less wealthy neighborhoods, particularly in Cape Town, around the Cape Flats and around Khayelitsha, in some of the black townships. And these new relationships were forged. And initially it started with a lot of food parcels, and then it transitioned into soup kitchens and food gardens, but also help in a lot of different ways. And the activist in me immediately thought, okay, I must join the can because I've always been an activist. And then there was a still voice inside of me that said, wait, don't rush back into action. Just wait, just do what you're doing, do your meditation, do your yoga, sit quietly in your tiny little backyard and just wait and let the significance and the importance of this moment, of this time, let it reveal itself to you. And I did that. I listened to that inner voice, and it did. Within a few weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, it revealed to me these 6 kind of practices that I then started practicing and that I have experienced as so strengthening for myself. And I think that has been a very small little positive ripple in the world. And so when you and I spoke about what might be a useful topic to share, initially I thought I'd like to speak about my involvement in the integrative law movement, because it's something that's very close to my heart. Because there's a whole movement of lawyers in the world that are reintegrating heart and mind and body and soul, and that are not wanting to structure their work on an adversarial conflict basis. And there's so much exciting stuff that's happening with the integrative law movement. But when we spoke, it felt as though these 6 practices and this way in which my own struggles with this period, this pandemic period, might be useful to some of your members of WIST. And I love that name, by the way, WIST.
Thank you. And I think many of us share this. Well, I certainly share your love of activism and love for community as well. And what you said really resonated with me about a community. Well, this is when we had our last chat, is about community becoming more important, making community more important through your own individual practice. And I'd love you to share with us your co-videre principles and explain to everybody exactly what that means. Lovely Latin word for today. And take us through.
Right. So the catalyst for me, the kind of little breakthrough moment for me, was when somewhere on Facebook, and I've never been able to go back and find that original post. So I have to thank somebody out there in the big universe for posting this play on words, this concept of COVID. And then, of course, if you add the videre, I'm just going to put it in the chat, but it was in the I think it was in the invite. But if you add the E-R-E to COVID, you actually get a Latin word. And as I mentioned to you, those of us with legal backgrounds were forced to study. I was still forced to study Latin at university and just scraped through. So it's not as though I have any handle on Latin. But there was something about this word co-videre, and it actually means videre, to see, and co, together. And once this concept of COVID being a moment for co-videre kind of took hold of me, I couldn't let go of it. I was too enlivened by this idea. What are we seeing? What is COVID allowing us to see together? What is this notion of seeing together? And the first thing that struck me about seeing together, co-videre, was that it had a double meaning. There was a double meaning to this concept, seeing together. And the first meaning is the more obvious one, I think, that all over the world, we were in similar experiences, and we were, many of us, on devices and on social media and on television and on Netflix, and we were, all of us collectively together, seeing and witnessing each other's journeys, each other's struggles. We were reading about each other's stories. We were together witnessing something profound. That was the first meaning. And that already touched me very, very deeply, because I don't think as a world community that we have had something like this ever before, certainly not in our lifetimes, where the entire world was witnessing a very profound and very traumatic event together in real time. And it revealed a lot of things for us. It revealed a lot of things for us. And I think maybe I'd like to ask now for those of you who do like making use of the chat, if you think back to lockdown and you think back to that period, like what was revealed to you? Like what were some of the things that you realized and that suddenly you might have known, but suddenly it was kind of really in your face, if one can put it that way. I mean, certainly for me, some of the things that were revealed was our interdependence. I mean, like, you know, there is no way that you can draw an arbitrary boundary line of a country through the air, through the sky, through the ground, and, you know, prevent viruses from moving. That it revealed the inequality of our society again. You know, we know that, we live with that. But it was so harshly revealed to us once normal businesses, as usual, stopped. Who were like really the vulnerable people? It revealed to us who were the real courageous people that continued against the odds. You know, people, our waste was still being collected. You know, the nurses were still showing up for their work. You know, what was really essential? Remember the concept, essential services? Like what was really essential for us? So a lot of things were revealed to me that I felt very moved by, because in the busyness of our lives, we don't pause to really reflect on that. So if anybody on the call want to share and want to chat, want to type in the chat anything that was revealed to you, it would be lovely. It would be lovely to know what was revealed, what you realized as we witnessed this phenomenon together. But there's more. There's a second meaning to the term seeing together. And so, yeah, there's a lovely post in the chat about how quickly things can change, exactly in a split second. And we know this because we know this intellectually, but this was the absolutely, oh, my voice wants to go quite high because it is so, one gets so, one gets so, what is it? It's so incredulous, isn't it? It was so incredulous how overnight, you know, our worlds changed. And the losing that sense of control, exactly. So the second way in which I interpreted this concept of seeing together was looking at things that we normally only see parts of. And now looking at how these things are all connected. So reintegrating, reconnecting things, looking at our lives, looking at our systems, looking at our families, and looking at our societies, looking at our planet, and looking at it in a way where we reconnect parts to one another. So seeing things together as opposed to seeing things only in their silos or seeing things only in their different categories. And that was such a powerful realization for me, because I do believe that part of our legacy, part of the legacy that we now have to attend to during and as we move through this pandemic, is that we have to reconnect things to each other. We have to reconnect our hearts and minds to our bodies. We have to reconnect our choices and our lifestyle to the implications it has for our planet. We have to reconnect when we look at our education crisis or at our health crisis, if we look at levels of obesity, or if we look at levels of homelessness, whatever you might choose, we have to see those things as part of this complex web of factors. And it's only when we think we can take one little thing out of this web and try and fix this one little thing that it leads us down this path of destruction that have brought us with this climate crisis and that have brought us with all these other pandemics that we face, the pandemic of racism, of sexism, the inequality, the extreme inequality, and the incredible insecurity that comes with that extreme inequality. All of these things require us to now show up in a different way. So those are my two ways of interpreting this concept of seeing things together. Yeah, was there a question, or do you want me to move on to my six practices?
Yeah, I think, I think the members would also just love to know in their personal capacities what to do. How do you respond to all this in a sort of conscious and intelligent way on a daily basis?
On a daily basis.
Yeah, daily basis.
So some other interesting revelations in the chat as well. So what happened, as I was so excited about this COVID era, and I was looking at this concept this CO, and there was something in there for me. It was a message that really our future depends on us not operating as individuals, not thinking primarily of ourselves, but realizing that we are embedded in community. And one of our participants just posted this idea of a network of friends and a network of business partners, that anything, and this is, of course, what Africa also teaches us, which is one of the most beautiful gifts of the African consciousness, is this concept of Ubuntu, and it's this concept of we are one amongst many. I am because you are. If we want to go anywhere, we have to go together. And so all six, the kind of practices that revealed themselves to me, all six of them started with this word, with this prefix, co. And I thought that was quite meaningful, that to reinforce this idea that we are community and we can only survive and we can only thrive as community. So before I share with you my 6 practices, Marina, the one thing that struck me as I was thinking about this talk was that who understands, who is already involved in almost a kind of a microcosm of understanding this connection between one's individual rights, your individual property, and then how you form part of the whole. What is part of the commons? What is part of the whole? The value of my asset is determined by the value of the whole asset. How you behave impacts me. How do we show up in our common spaces? How do we take care of the whole? How do we make rules that serves everyone's best interest? Of course, people in sectional title. And it was
Excellent example. Excellent example.
Such a beautiful revelation to me that there is something about this interdependence, this co-community that is already that's already known in your community, in your women in sectional title community. But guess what? I went and I was very intrigued by this word whist, and I Googled the meaning of the word whist. And do you know that whist in its old English form means for someone who already has knowledge of something?
That's amazing. Sure.
So it's linked to the word wit and whist. And it is also, of course, linked to the word wistful. And the meaning of wistful also is this a feeling of yearning for something, of longing for something. And I thought this was so beautiful because there's a way in which women in sectional title already know about this interdependence between the self and the whole. You already know that. And that's what your name is. Whist. Whist is your name. You already have that knowledge in you. And I was also then thinking about this concept of asset managers. You said that many of your participants and many of the people on the call might be sort of asset managers. And I also thought that's so interesting because when we talk about asset managers, it's quite a clinical term, and it kind of makes one think of dead things, of assets, dead things. And yet I think if you speak to any asset manager, their problem isn't the managing of the dead things. Their problem isn't, the actual bricks and mortar. The challenge is the relationships. It's the relationships between and among people. And so I'm wondering if asset managers are not if that's not maybe an outdated term, and if there's not a way in which those of us on the call need to honor and acknowledge how really at the heart of our work is our relationships. And so it's with those sort of few comments that I wanted to then just share these 6 practical sort of principles that emerged for me. And I'm just going to share all 6 of them up front, and then we'll just run through each of them very quickly. The first one is containment. And when I speak about containment, I speak primarily about ourselves, how we work with our own energies, with our own bodies, with our own fears, with our own challenges. And so I'm going to come back to that. The second word refers to the other, refers to our colleagues, our partners, our family, the communities that maybe do not form part of our community, any other sentient being that we engage with. It could even go into the realm of animals. It can even go into the realm of plants. But where there is suffering and where there's pain, we are often numbed by that and overwhelmed by that. And instead of having a response of overwhelm and of numbing and of turning away and looking away, my invitation is that we send a prayer of consolation to the other, that their hearts be consoled in their times of trouble and of difficulty. The next one is consolidation. And the prayer or the intention around consolidation is for wherever we find in our personal lives, in our families, in our professional lives, in our societies, in our communities, and in the world, where we find small positive actions that are coming, such as the cans. The cans were such an inspiring thing that happened, that we actually send a prayer and we ask for the consolidation, the strengthening of that positive impulse in the world. At the moment, there is the COP20, whatever it is, big climate meeting that's going on. And our situation on the planet is dire. I know that we've got so many other things that we need to deal with that we don't want to even still confront these additional issues, but we have to. And that brings me to the next one, which is this concept of counsel, wise counsel. So counsel is a beautiful word for wisdom, particularly in the context of decision making. All of us are making decisions all day long, little micro, small decisions about whether we're going to have that extra chocolate or whether we're going to get off the couch and go for a walk, and much bigger decisions. Sorry about load shedding taking its toll there. Much bigger decisions that impact our lives. Some people might still be wrestling with whether they need to be vaccinated or not. At a planetary level, all the leaders at this COP meeting need to make decisions about literally the future of our children and our grandchildren's lives, literally. So there are decisions that we have to make at all levels of our lives on a daily basis. And each of those decisions inform and shape our lives and our relationships and our futures. And so wise counsel is something that we need for making those decisions. The next co-word is a difficult word. Often it gives us a little bit of a skrik, as we say in Afrikaans, when we think about this word complexity. But it is a concept that I'm hoping is going to become far more common and understood by far, far more people. Because what complexity represents is really a living system. Living systems are complex systems. So if you want to think of the distinction between a motor car and a garden, a motor car is made up of dead bits. And so it's a very complicated piece of machinery, but it's not complex. A garden is a complex living system because it's made up out of living elements that are all interdependent on one another, who all live in symbiosis with one another, and where the whole, the good of the whole, depends on each of the parts doing their little bit that they're supposed to be doing in order for the whole to flourish. And here's the interesting bit. You are a complex being, because if you think about your body, without any cognitive awareness, your body is performing trillions of complex functions. Now, in the same way, your family is a little complex system because everybody's everything affects everybody else in your family's everything. We are all affected by each other. In the same way, our organizations are complex living systems, our societies are complex living systems, our educational system, our medical, all the systems that make up our world are actually governed by the principles of complexity. And unless we understand that, and unless we understand that we're part of this web of life, we can behave in ways that can be incredibly destructive to our futures and to everybody's well-being. And the last is this concept of co-emergence. You and I spoke a little bit about it. We are coming to the end of a certain era. This very capitalistic, very individualistic era of extracting from nature and of not honoring this web of life is forcing us to begin to rethink our world. And we have to rethink how we show up, what our priorities are. Somebody said earlier on, COVID helped you realize actually what is really important and how little you really need. We have to rethink our priorities, and we have to begin to think what kind of a world, a new era do we want to be part of seeding, part of creating, part of leaving behind for our children. And so we really make the future as we go. The future is not some place that's coming toward us already shaped and formed. Our decisions, our relationships, the quality of our being shapes this future. And so those are my six practices that were revealed to me when I resisted the urge to run off and go and chop vegetables and join a soup kitchen, and just stayed quietly in my own sort of inner space and listened to my inner voice. And these 6 practices have really helped me over the last couple of months. I remind myself all the time, what I'm doing now helping to create a new world? I'm asking myself all the time, am I seeing things together? Am I seeing the complexity, the living system of this situation that I'm dealing with? Or am I just picking out one particular theme? Am I asking for wise counsel for any decision that I make? Am I asking for wise counsel? Am I searching? Am I looking for wise counsel? And also, am I offering counsel? Am I offering some of my wisdom to those who need it? Am I consolidating? Am I asking for the consolidation of the impulses that's good in the world? To me, whist is one of those impulses. It's a beautiful space with a beautiful intention to bring healing and wisdom and empowerment into the world. So let's ask for a strengthening of that impulse that is whist. Am I sending energy of consolation to those who need it? When I see that beggar at the traffic intersection, do I just turn away? Do I roll up my window? Do I put on a frowny face that says, don't come close to me? Or do I open my heart? I can't give maybe money. Maybe I don't have a leftover sandwich in my car, but can I open my heart? Can I smile? Can I bless that person as I drive past? And then myself, what am I doing to contain myself? Am I making healthy choices? Am I dealing with my own fears, or am I allowing my fears to spill into my family, into my business, into my colleagues? Am I doing my wellness practices? Have I reconnected with my spiritual life? What am I doing as my personal containment practices? And so those are the 6. You're on mute, Marina.
So many cars driving past, I'm too scared to put it on, but thank you so much, Ilze. I think you've given us all so much food for thought, and I truly believe that whist is not only about sectional title issues. It's got to be about a lot more. You know, what's important to us, what makes us tick, because that makes us more productive in this kind of space. And I also love the fact that you've sort of integrated these learnings into sectional title, because it's all about relationships, and the most disputes and the most stress and the most really things that can drive a person mad in this industry are all due to relationships which possibly haven't been worked on or haven't been looked at from a different angle. So yeah, I thank you so much. And just to go over those 6 C's: containment, consolation, consolidation, counsel, complexity, and co-emergence. Wonderful, enriching words. And I've actually got 3 P's for you, Ilze. Do you know what they are?
No, share them. I love that. What are they?
You are positive, you are powerful, and you are proactive. And you must never forget that. I really wanted to convey that to you. And thank you again. Our time has run out. We basically got a minute more, but perhaps we can engage with you again at a different time. For just more, we can sort of drill down into all of those things. So I take this opportunity again to thank our sponsors for allowing us this platform where we can learn and share. We'll see you, ladies and the men who support the ladies, who I know have been on this webinar. Thank you. We'll see you again in November and December for lots more interesting information and hopefully some gifts at our Christmas session. Take care, keep safe, and until we meet again, thank you.
Thank you, Marina. Blessings.
You too.